Ready.
So, the first question is just mainly just a definition of how you guys define the film industry and what kind of jobs you might find in the film industry.
Okay.
List as many as you can think of.
In Melbourne, it's really hard to get into the film industry. It really depends on the initiative of the individual and on who you know. So if you have a contact that can get you onto a production, onto a set, that's great. Your education, at university or at a college will always help, but it's on its own. It's not enough. You can learn stuff, and without it, you'd become a different person. But really, it's luck and readiness to pursue your dreams, and don't let anything stop you. Because the industry's full of people saying no, but somebody one day will say yes, and suddenly you're in the door.
I think, look, with a lot of careers in the arts, and the film industry is like that, there isn't a straight path. It's not like there's a, with law, with medicine, with engineering, you do a course, you're qualified to do a job, you get the job. With film, it's always been, as Tom was saying, there's luck, there's timing, and there are lots of different ways in, which can be a good thing or can be a difficult, challenging thing, because it's very hard to see a path. If you want to end up there, if your desire is to be a film director or to make a career as an actor, it's very hard to see if you do this, this and this, you'll end up there. It doesn't work like that. But there are lots of different ways that you can make a calling card for yourself. You can do a course like at the VCA, Victorian College of the Arts. You could do the directing course or the screenwriting course or the producing course, and then you could perhaps make a short film and enter that short film at, say, the St Kilda Short Film Festival or a Tropfest or the Melbourne International Film Festival, and hope that people get to see your work and hope that they remember what you do, and then maybe that will lead to other possibilities. Or maybe you write a script and you apply to Film Victoria, say, for funding, and they fund it, or you just do something on your own and put it online and hope that people see it and like it, and that in some way through there you get to connect with other people who have a similar way of thinking. But there isn't an orthodox conventional path that you can say, well, if you go here, then you'll go there and you'll end up there. And it's never worked like that, which is part of the frustration of it, I suppose, for people who are interested in doing it.
If you're lucky and you go to the VCA, the staff there are filmmakers and people who've worked in one way or another in film. So it's quite possible that they will see you as a promising new student and whisper to somebody else in the business, this person is worth keeping an eye on, and that way find your way into the industry. But I think what we're both saying is that there's really no formal channel that will take you into the industry. As a filmmaker or a TV producer or even as an actor.
Or writer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, and really the way things have opened up now with the access people have to work online, you get the opportunity to show your work to a very large audience for not necessarily a huge investment to start with. But it's still, joining the dots is not a precise art. It's difficult. It requires initiative and tenacity.
And luck.
Luck, unfortunately, because that's a difficult thing to tell people who are interested in doing it, because, of course, that's nothing you plan for.
Except when you're a sports person, people say, luck matters. But if you haven't actually done your preparation, your training, your homework, luck won't happen, because you haven't put yourself in a position where luck can take its course.
That's true. You've kind of got to create the circumstances for the luck as well.
Yeah, I'm glad I thought of that.
I'm glad you thought of that too. I think that's a point worth making.
Can you please explain what you do as your job in Lizzie and what you do?
I write about television mainly, and I write mainly for Fairfax Media, which publishes the Sydney Morning Herald newspaper and the Age newspaper, and some of my articles also appear in the West Australian. And I also appear regularly on radio every Thursday on ABC Radio talking about TV. So mainly I write reviews and feature stories, and I do interviews, and I have a column in a weekly supplement that's part of The Age, which is called The Green Guide.
Can you name one of the TV shows that you have done or talked about on the radio?
Well, tomorrow we'll be talking about the Olympics. Last week we talked about Gruen.
The Olympic coverage.
The Olympic coverage.
Yeah.
The coverage of the Olympics. Last week we talked about Gruen. The last column that I wrote was on The Bachelor. So
I know that one.
And the Green Guide comes out tomorrow.
Yes, but I don't think I've got anything
No?
into. I've got a couple of short previews in tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's
it's not
Craig's
worth getting
week.
in that case. Yeah.
Craig is a very good writer. I do my column fortnightly, and I share the column with someone else. And tomorrow it's his week.
Well, I quit my job a little while ago to do what I wanted to do, which is bury myself away from the world and work on books. So that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years. But before then I was film critic at the Sunday Age from 1989, and before then I wrote for Anybody Who'd Publish It. And while that was happening...
That sounds a bit indiscriminate. It wasn't quite that indiscriminate.
I just want to get published, you know. You want your stuff to be published. There are film magazines who would publish, you know, writing about film if they thought it was okay. You wouldn't get paid for it. And I started out, you know, it took years for me to actually... I was lucky I had another job, but it took years for me to actually get into a position where people would offer me money to write. And that became very nice. And my real job was as a teacher. When I say real job, it's that, you know, I think writing was a real job too, but I wasn't getting paid for it. Whereas the other job I got money for. And
You were teaching film.
I was teaching film at universities mainly.
That's probably the point that you raised about doing it for nothing for a while is probably a good point to make in terms of film industry as well, because I think often you have to be prepared, if that's something you really want to do it for a while and not get paid for it. You often have to finance your life through other work that you do to finance the film project, to allow you space to write it or to try and raise the money to put together a production, or in our case both of us wrote for a long time getting paid nothing or very little for it, not enough to live on, because that's what we wanted to do.
All the waiters here are probably actors.
Aspiring filmmakers.
My future.
Ours is 5.
Would you call yourself successful in those jobs?
Ask me about her. You can ask her about me. I think she's been really successful. She's worked herself up from nothing to become this major figure in Australian film and television culture.
Oh my God.
She's a terrific writer, and she really works hard at what she does. Probably harder than she should, I think, but that's the way of the world. So, but yes, I think she's extremely successful. She's probably one of the two best film critics, TV critics in the country. Graham Blundell at The Australian being the other one. I can't think of anybody else who produces consistent work of the quality of Debbie and Graham.
Thank you, darling.
So, totally unbiased view, which I happen to think.
And would you call him successful?
Yes,
You
I totally. No, Tom was a fabulous teacher, and we constantly run into people who were students of his over years and years and years who talk about what an inspirational teacher he was and how he taught them to understand film and how he introduced them to genres of film that they never would have had any interest in looking at, and he they understood them and appreciated them, and it gave them a lifelong love of film. So I thought it was very sad when he left teaching, because I think he'd had enough of it. He was a stunning teacher. He's a terrific film critic, and The Age is a poorer paper without him, and we are constantly also running into people who say, why aren't you still reviewing films? We miss your film reviews in The Age. You were the only person we listened to. And he managed to balance a really strong academic basis for teaching people about film and how to appreciate film with a newspaper style of writing, which is not an easy thing to do, and he did it really well. So incredibly successful at doing that, and since then has been very busy working on his own projects with an enormous amount of glee, and has edited a book on Baz Luhrmann and written parts of and edited a book on Fred Skepsey as well, which is being published early next year.
Oh, wow.
And is hard at work on two major projects that have been occupying a lot of his time. So very happily busy doing film work that he loves. So it's a happy story, really.
That's a kind of a success in itself, doing something that you love doing.
Absolutely.
Being able to support yourself doing something you love doing is a major achievement.
Yeah.
And success is being, you're right, success is being happy in your work.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Did you guys attend university in Melbourne?
I went to RMIT. I did what was then a Diploma of Arts, which is now a Bachelor of Arts, and my area was media.
I went to Monash and La Trobe in Melbourne and then studied at Warwick University in England.
Oh, nice, England. Yeah, like has those specific educations contributed to your career in any substantial ways? With that education, did that help you?
Me doing media studies contributed absolutely and essentially, and basically that course changed my life because I started off doing arts law at Melbourne University, really because I didn't know what to do and hated it and was not interested in it, and found my way to RMIT where media studies was a very new thing. I mean, that course was one of the only ones in the country, and it had only been running for a couple of years. I think there were only 2 other years of graduates before my year. So it was all very fresh, which meant it was all very loose and disorganised and a bit haphazard, and I loved it, but it completely changed what I wanted to do with my life, so it was hugely important.
I studied arts at university to help me be a good teacher. I'd never had any idea that I would be anything else but a teacher in a high school, and then everybody I know starts out thinking when they're at university that they're going to end up doing X or Y, and they never do. They finish up in an entirely different place. And I think what started it for me was that when I was at Monash, somebody said to me, well, we need a film reviewer for the newspaper, the university newspaper. Do you want to do it? I said, no. They said, you get in for nothing. I said, I'll do it. Because I love film. I've been, turned on to film by my father, by some of the people who lectured to me. And so a chance to see free movies, that was, see it for nothing, of course.
Big incentive.
And one thing led to another, after that.
I know you both have been really busy at the film festival that's on at the moment. Can you explain your role in that? Sum it up.
Just audience member. I'm purely going because I love the film festival and I love the opportunity. I love the atmosphere of it and the opportunity to see a whole lot of really diverse films in a short space of time. It's got a great atmosphere, and Melbourne sort of feels alive to me when the film festival is on, and I get to see things I might not otherwise get to see.
I hate going to the film festival. I hate sitting with crowds of people and watching films. I prefer, my ideal state is to sit in a cinema on my own, which perhaps with my darling wife, and watch a film. And there are no distractions. The seats will be comfortable, and I'll be happy. And if I could do that, and see and get access to all the different kinds of films that Debbie's talking about at the festival that you can gain access to, then I'd be a very, very happy man, not just a happy one.
See, I love the whole thing. I love the queuing, I love the atmosphere in the queues. I'm not crazy about the seats. the seats. There's a real shortage of proper cinema venues in the heart of Melbourne. And one of the major venues that the festival used to use, which wasn't all that terrific anyway, but anyway, it's closed down and being redeveloped into apartments. So they're really having trouble finding where to screen the festival. And one of the places they're screening it is at the Comedy Theatre, which is like the theatre you're in today, but it hasn't been renovated as well. So it's very uncomfortable. It's not really designed to have films in it. It's designed to be a theatre. So it's not ideal, but I still love the festival.
At the festival, or just in general with the film industry, do you know if there have been a number of younger men and women working or volunteering?
The festival the festival couldn't run without volunteers. I think I was actually sitting next to one of the festival volunteers in a screening we went to yesterday.
They get free tickets as well.
Which is one of the bonuses of being, but there's just a really great community. There are 380 volunteers at the festival, she told me. 1,000 people applied. It's a very highly sought after job, and there aren't usually many vacancies because apparently lots of people who do it 1 year immediately apply to do it again the next year. So I think the festival couldn't survive without the volunteers, and the volunteers are fantastic.
They just love a chat, and when you're waiting in a queue to go in, they just love to talk about the films they've seen, and they ask you what you've seen, and they really care about what they're doing. The passion is infectious.
And it affects the mood of the festival in a really positive way.
Are they, would you say they're younger, or what?
It's really mixed.
Really mixed. With the younger people, do you think they have limits in the industry? If you're younger, do you think it's harder for you to establish yourself, or like you were saying before about how it's just luck and hard work? Is it harder for younger students, or?
Well, if I wanted to be a film star now, I'd have trouble. But if I was 20, I'd have a chance.
I think it's easier.
Yeah.
Actually, I think the industry is always on the lookout for the next big thing. There's a real desire among agents, among TV networks, among film producers to find the next hot new talent. And I think if you have the signs of maybe having those qualities, it would be a lot easier for someone who's 22 than someone who's 42, say, to make an impact, I think.
And just final question, overall, do you believe that Melbourne caters for university students seeking success in the film industry in an easy and efficient way?
No. I don't think it does, but it's a city that's vibrant, and there are lots of opportunities for those who want to take them, but they're not formal. So in that way, it's not like if I'm catering a meal, I supply you with opportunities to eat. It's not like that.
Do you think the way to get these opportunities is getting easier? Is it getting easier for people to get into this industry, or do you think it's still the same level as it's been since the beginning?
It's a good question. Yes, I think it's getting easier because a lot more films are being made, and there's a lot more activity happening than say happened when we were starting. I mean, there was very little available, whereas now, there's a lot going on. What you need to do is to find a way of plugging into that.
Yeah, I think the internet and the exposure you can get through the internet has given young filmmakers potentially access to a really broad audience. I mean, it's possible to make an impact, but I think Australia is still a country with a small population or a small market globally. So I think if you talk to people in the industry, and I do that often for my work, nobody's had an easy ride. It's always tough. It's always tough getting projects up, as the terminology goes. It's hard to get financing. It's harder to get government financing now than it's ever been, I think, since, that kind of funding was introduced in the 70s. I've never met in Australia a kind of producer or director who fits that classic Hollywood mode of I'm living in a mansion and I've got a fleet of cars and I've got a private jet. They're generally humble, hard-working people who are quite committed to what they're doing, who regard success as a surprise and a bonus. It's not. I don't think any of them would say it's a cruisy business to be in.
Do you have any, just lastly, just for my personal benefit, I am looking for a career in the film industry for my future. That's where I got my, I said mainly in acting or screenwriting or something like that for movies. Do you have any tips for someone finding their footing in what would be
Do more than one thing.
do more than one thing?
Yeah. Actually, if you like writing and can write, then write. If you like acting as well, do that. Try everything.
You can do everything as well, which is
Can you do everything?
She can.
Yeah. Right.
she can do absolutely
You're the
everything.
cinematographer.
I'm just holding a camera.
Are we actually in shot?
Yes, that's good.
So no swimming plan.
So look, those are they're really good questions, and obviously you've worked on them. It's
It's a
been a really good interview.
tough career, but it's such a rewarding one if you can get there. I think people, that thing that you were talking about before about doing a job you love, there's enormous satisfaction, but it requires real determination. You really have to be in there, I think, for the long haul. The overnight success thing is, if it happens at all, it's incredibly rare.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often.
I mean, the best thing at this point is to gather a group of like-minded friends around you and do things.
Yeah.
Whether it's with a phone or a microphone or a computer or whatever. That's do things.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This has been so
Pleasure.
good.